It had been a year since the crash. The wreckage of the Peregrine, my once proud ship, lay scattered across a remote asteroid field, its systems fried and fuel tanks drained dry. I wasn't even sure how it had ended up here. The last thing I remembered was the sudden explosion from the enemy's artillery. It had been a routine reconnaissance mission, one that ended with my ship in pieces and the cold, silent void of space my only companion. I had done what I could to keep the ship's emergency systems functioning, keeping a few lights on, securing an oxygen supply, and maintaining the few essentials I needed to survive. The truth was, I didn't expect to make it. It was just me, alone. I had hoped that someone from the fleet would pick up the distress signal eventually, but days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. My mind was beginning to fray, but the steady hum of the remaining power systems gave me a sense of purpose. It wasn't until a month ago that I started noticing strange things. Food supplies in the galley were vanishing at a rapid pace. Tools were missing from the storage lockers, and there were strange noises at night. Soft footsteps, whispers, and sometimes a fleeting shadow in the corner of my eye. I didn't want to believe it, but it was becoming impossible to ignore. Something or someone was aboard my ship. The discovery came on an ordinary day when I decided to scavenge for a spare part one needed for the ship's main communication relay. It was a simple task, one that required a trip to the aft cargo bay, an area I hadn't visited in a while, given the condition of the ship. As I walked past the narrow corridors, something caught my eye, a flicker of movement. I froze. I didn't know what to expect. After all, there hadn't been any signs of human life for months. Maybe it was a mechanical malfunction, or perhaps my mind was playing tricks on me. But as I entered the cargo hold, I saw her. She was hiding behind a large crate, her wide alien eyes staring at me in a mix of fear and curiosity. She was small, no taller than 5 feet, with pale blue skin and elongated features, her body covered in what looked like a mix of ancient armor and tattered clothing. Her eyes were a deep shade of yellow, and her long, black hair framed her face in an untamed mess. She looked at me as if I was the most dangerous thing she had ever encountered. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice trembling. I stood there in shock for a moment. I hadn't expected to find anyone, especially not an alien. I had been so used to the solitude that I almost forgot what it felt like to interact with another being. Slowly, I placed my hand on the wall, trying to appear less threatening. I'm just trying to fix my ship," I said, my voice calm but tinged with confusion. "Who are you? How long have you been here?" The alien girl didn't respond at first. Her eyes darted around as if looking for an escape. She seemed like she was ready to bolt at any moment. I took another step forward, keeping my movement slow. She started, but then she cut herself off, as if gathering courage. "I didn't mean to intrude. I've been living here. I didn't know anyone else was left." "Living here?" My mind raced as I tried to process what she was saying. "Wait," I said, narrowing my eyes. "You've been living in my ship? How? Why?" She glanced down, her expression a mix of guilt and fear. "I didn't have a choice. My ship was damaged in an attack, and I ended up drifting here. I didn't know how to communicate with anyone, and the systems on your ship still worked, just enough to keep me alive. I didn't want to steal from you, but I had no other choice." I stood there, trying to wrap my head around what she had said. This alien girl had been living on my ship for weeks, perhaps months, hiding from me. I didn't know whether to be angry or amazed. I had assumed I was the last survivor in this wreckage, and yet here she was, living in the shadows, doing what she had to do to survive. "You should have told me," I said finally, my voice softer than I expected. "I could have helped. I still have food, air." She shook her head quickly. "I didn't know if you would help me," she whispered. "I'm not like you. I'm not human." I felt a pang of guilt. Of course, she wasn't human. But that didn't mean I couldn't help her. I wasn't about to leave someone to suffer alone in the depths of space, even if she wasn't from my world. Look, we're both stuck here, I said, crouching down to her level. But if you're going to stay here, we need to work together. I'm not going to leave you to starve or run out of air. But I need something in return. She raised an eyebrow, confused. What? I need a spare part for the communications relay, I said, pulling up the blueprint on my wrist display. You've been here longer than me. I'm guessing you've seen the ship better than I have. Can you help me find it? Her expression softened, and she hesitated for a moment. Then, with a quiet nod, she stood up, brushing the dirt from her clothes. I can help, she said, but only if you don't hurt me. Of course, I won't hurt you, I said, surprised by her concern. I just need the part. Then, I'll help you fix your ship too. We'll get out of here together. For the first time since I had found her, she seemed to relax. She led me through the ship's darkened halls, pointing out areas where she had scavenged or found supplies. We made our way to the storage bay, where I found the part one needed, tucked away in a compartment. I'm sorry, she said suddenly as I took the part. I didn't mean to scare you earlier. I've just been alone for so long. I paused for a moment, my fingers frozen on the part. I get it, I said softly. I've been alone too. But you don't have to be anymore. The next few days were spent working together, rebuilding the broken communication relay. With the spare parts she had gathered and my knowledge of the ship systems, we managed to get the signals back online. I was able to send out a distress call to the nearest fleet, telling them about the wreckage and the survivors. But it wasn't just the distress call that changed everything. Over time, the alien girl, whom I had learned was named Kira, and I built a bond, a partnership. She taught me about her world and the civilizations that had been destroyed in the war. I shared stories of my own life, my lost comrades, and my life before the crash. When the fleet finally arrived, I wasn't just rescued. I had someone to share it with. Kira, though not human, had become my ally, my companion, and a friend. And as we left the wreckage of the Peregrine behind, I realized that in the vastness of space, we might not always find what we expect. But sometimes, that's what makes survival worth fighting for. The stars were no longer empty. With Kira by my side, they were full of possibilities. And in the quiet hum of the ship's systems, I felt hope returning for the first time in a long while. You said,